Hello, this video is about fasting as training for combat situations, situations that require you to survive, as well as adventurous or extreme life circumstances where you need to have good training and especially the ability to go without food for a prolonged period of time. So let's get into it, and let's start with my schedule. So the day before yesterday I had my regular day, I worked out and everything. I had my supper at around 8 or 9, after which I finished some business matters and went to sleep around 11 to 12. The very next day I woke up, and you can say the fasting started right after I finished, obviously, my supper. Then it went to full night, but that's standard. Then the very next day is when the official fasting has started. That full day, which is yesterday, I didn't eat anything other than drinking my filtered clean water. And during that day I went to the beach where I actively swim and tan for about 4 hours and just had a great day at the beach. Wasn't doing anything specifically physical or sport wise, but just a full day of beach activity. After that I went to a lake where I already did like intentionally a performance swim, a 800-meter swim. One way it was butterfly, the other one it was crawl basically. But it was an intense, regular sports swim. At that time I came back home, again no food, just drinking water, finished up some of the business matters, made some videos, which you will see shortly, will be posted. But full day without food, from start to finish, went to sleep hungry, full night of sleep for about 7 hours or so. Woke up today, had a glass of water, and right away went for an hour and a half run. It was about 12 to 13k run, and during that run it took an hour and a half, not because I was tired really that from the fasting, but because I was doing push-ups every roughly 1.5 kilometers to 2 kilometers. Plus it's an excellent run around the Halifax harbor where there's lots of hills, ups and downs, so it's an intensive run. After that run immediately I went to a park where I did some dips on the parallel bars, 20 times 4. In between dips, as I was resting, I was doing one leg sit-ups, roughly 12 on each leg times 4. And in between those I was doing intensive breathing exercises to increase oxygen in the bloodstream. So that's the performance I'm talking about, and that's not even that impressive to many people who are actively fast and work out. But nevertheless, I do this regularly. I fast from anywhere in between once a week to once every 2 weeks to once a month, but I don't recommend pushing longer than that. And that is what I recommend for people to do. A year before last, I fast for like completely full year, once a week, regular 36-hour fast with training, with everything. Last year or that last year I have been fasting once every 2 weeks, and this year, plus minus few months, I've been fasting once a month to once every 2 weeks. So that's the kind of, but I have been doing this consistently on a regular basis, and that is the crucial point. Now, with all dispensing with all the pleasantries, let's get into fasting for combat situations, for extreme situations. for survival events and so forth, because I believe this is extremely important. And we will also get into benefits of health as well as sport later in the video, but primary core again, this is combat, survival, and extreme, and how fasting can benefit substantially everyone, especially whose profession it is to participate, like the members of the military, in such events. I wish to begin this talk with the concept that most people, be they in police forces, be in the military, be they are actively in sports and so forth, or just people who go into like extreme, a great deal of them have never fasted. What that equals to is the fact that they haven't experienced what it is like to go with a full day without food, to go to sleep hungry, wake up, to go the next day without food, and so forth. And that creates a problem, because a lot of people think, well, it will be tough, but what exactly does that entail? Because the drawbacks of not experiencing that is if you don't know how your body performs when it's starved for food. And that is crucially important, especially when you need to have some sort of a prediction of how that your team member, your person who you're relying upon, will behave under such adverse conditions. Especially if there are other adverse conditions other than fasting. If it's hot weather, if it is very cold weather, it's freezing weather, or if you're doing some sort of a march, or you're surviving in a natural disaster, and so forth. First thing that happens when people never fasted and they suddenly experiencing that, they feel weak, sleepy, low energy levels. That means they cannot operate. Again, if you are a member of a combat unit, if you are a member of a group that's trying to survive, obviously your weak co-members or your weak team is no good to you, or you being that weak is no good to them either. It creates a huge security and basically performance risk. You cannot accomplish your task, whether it is to move to a certain objective and eliminate a target, or whether it is to get to a safe place and survive. Weakness is a major issue. Another issue that's parallel to weakness, and many people experience that, is lightheadedness. They suddenly feel dizzy, disoriented, and so forth. And that often comes along with weakness, and you can see how this now problem amplifies even further. Now that person is not coherent, or could be just doing dangerous acts that will endanger the rest of the group. Or they become a liability where they cannot continue to move any further, especially if it's hot weather and they've been walking in that hot or cold weather and doing lots of physical activity, stimulating their blood flow, and suddenly they feel dizzy and they fall and faint. Well, that's right away in a liability. Now all of you who are starving have to carry that person, or take some sort of an action, shelter, hold, stop, and so forth. Again, for people who are trying to survive, it's one issue, but if you're a group, a military group, a unit that needs to perform some sort of a task, that's a whole bit different problem, where you're not weak enough to perform that task. And I'm not in any way displaying my awesomeness that I hear fast and all of you don't. That is not what I want to show, because there are much more experienced people in fasting, fasted way more than me, have better performance levels, and so on. But let's speak here actually on the performance levels. Take a short sidebar. A great deal of military personnel, a great deal of athletes, and everybody who just enjoys an active lifestyle perform very well when they have their breakfast, dinner, and supper. Perform even if they have a breakfast and supper. At least eat 3 times a day, twice a day. Excellent performance. And then this is most of the military. Other than special forces units, they fast all the time due to their necessity. And I've read that in many of the biographies that people made spoke to some in in Eastern European countries. I spoke to some ex-members of Soviet special forces. But the point is that special forces, we're not talking about them, this video is useless to them. They already know everything I'm about to say. But regular units eat regularly. Few have experienced actually fasting, and I'm not talking about just Canada where I am, United States, but especially Central European countries, short of Brits. Brits pretty hardcore. But there are some units that do experience long marches, no food, and they actually, their PTs, personal trainers, or whoever their instructors are, do run them very hard and force them to fast, and they even not eat for 3 days. But a great deal do not. And furthermore, a lot of units do that as like a one-time thing, and they just tough it out, and that's it. They never do it in their life, and none never wish to do it in their life. And that becomes an issue, obviously, when performance is necessary. And again, a lot of people on 3 or 2 meal a day basis can shoot straight, think straight, perform tasks very well, and so forth. Athletes can run that quarter or that mile, giving their best times, and they can march and do whatever is necessary. People can do extreme situations, jump with parachutes and so forth. But you take this very same people, and they have never fasted before. You take those very same people who are great athletes, and again, I've heard this many times from actually in memoirs of special forces units where they say this, we never really trusted these natural gazelles, or as they call them, these runners who can just sprint and beat everybody in their qualifications or whatever the special forces pass, and they're just super fast, super awesome runners. But you put a backpack or rucksack on them, you put some weight in there, 20 kg, and you starve them for food, and you suddenly make their life highly uncomfortable for a day or two, and suddenly their performance level drop astronomically. And this is exactly what I have experienced on myself, on my performance level when I first started to fast, and it's something many people can confirm. So I'm speaking, and again, there are people who can naturally run awesome with a lot of weight on their back, and at the same time they never fasted. They are just naturally extremely fit. But I'm talking about people who don't have any natural special abilities, and they have to train for everything they do. They wish to accomplish, and they have to train very hard. And it is those people that I recommend fasting, again, because you need to understand how your body performs. Even if you're a natural fast runner under normal conditions, you should experience and test yourself. And if you discover you have that weakness, that under adverse conditions without food you are much weaker, then I am here to tell you with this video that you can improve yourself. You can be better than you were by simply regularly fasting, and then you will be an excellent fast runner. Plus, you will be a fast runner under any conditions. So you already have a predisposition to become better than you are. And you have, this is again, we live in an incredible time where most of us are not living under some sort of a survival state. In developed nations we have free time, we have gyms to go to, we have regular intake of food, so it's not like the World War II combat veterans. You should, if you find them in your country, speak to them, listen to their stories, where they were short on food, they were short on water, probably haven't ate for a day or two, had to do a 50-mile march. At the end of that march they had to execute a task, a dangerous task, meaning go into combat and kill with probably Germans. If World War II, although you can speak to Germans, they had to do the same. So these people had to endure incredible hardships, and they were incredibly tough by the necessity of life. And again, this is something that always greatly inspired me. I'm Russian, live in Canada, consider myself Russian Canadian, but Soviet troops and how they fought in World War II just tremendously inspired me. These were real men. that demand at least have my honor, everlasting honor and respect. And I think, but same, I greatly respect all veterans of World War II, from United States, all the Allies, and even the German forces. I don't respect the Nazis and their ideology, but the troops that forced to execute the task and fight for that country, you can grant them that respect. And many, actually, Russians do. They had Nazis and German forces, again, not promoting Nazi ideology here, it's the enemy, but the German forces fought, they were steel tough soldiers. Unlike what's happening today with these feminized men who have these elaborate hairstyles and tight pants, fancy t-shirts that they change every day, and they have to purses that they carry and all that weird stuff, and then feminization of males, castration of males in the Western world is a major issue, and it's another video to make. But this is an appeal, again, this video is an appeal to all who consider themselves real tough guys who wish to make themselves even tougher through fasting, to test their limits, to push themselves physically even further. And especially if, again, you operate in the military, in police forces, in emergency units, if you practice survival, or you do any kind of survival, or you're preparing yourself for survival, because this is a big issue to undertake. It's not a video, this video is not also neither about survival in general, but what it is about is preparing yourself for such situation. Because if you live in big cities, megapolises like New York, Washington, Toronto, Vancouver, Moscow, Tokyo, doesn't matter, St. Petersburg, wherever, London, all these cities are death traps. I call them mouse traps. That are just their infrastructure is decaying, not replaced as fast as it should be. But there's plenty of other examples. For example, when it was in the province of Ontario, I think it was Toronto or some other big city around the Great Lakes, when the power on the US and Canadian border simultaneously went out, and there was mass panic. It was out for what, 24 hours or so. Mass panic on the street. Subway stopped, traffic lights not working, traffic jams, people flooding the streets, no light in the skyscrapers, emergency units are not working, backup generators are failing, and that's just power going out in a major city. We can have acts of terrorism in major cities. We can have natural disasters like floods, which plenty of the Moscow region, for example, in Russia has seen. And it's just, we had hurricanes Rita and Katrina. I think that we had an anniversary just now, and what happened there, again, a perfect spot-on example of people starved for food, not enough water, weak, not ready for anything, shocked by the situation that has happened, just an absolute chaos, government not responding accurately, and suddenly you're left to defend for yourselves. Gangs were formed, looting, robbing, death, violence, all happened. I don't understand why there's not more documentaries, no more in-depth things that would happen. The situation with Katrina had to be, in Louisiana in general, had to be shown regularly to the population from various angles, from various documentaries. That's spot-on example of a real survival situation, combat even situation, because there were plenty of people using firearms to get what they want, to get that extra bottle of water. And by the way, you can watch also my video, a link will appear on why I believe every person should learn how to use firearms. For those who are listening in the United States, that's easy for you. In Canada, we have certain permissions from firearms. In European Unions, laws vary, but again, made a whole video how we should learn how to use firearms. But again, returning back to the main issue of cities and death traps, if you live in a city, start fasting. You probably, most likely, will need it. We have very high probabilities of some disaster or other impacting major cities worldwide. So it is crucial for everyone to learn how to fast. Why? Because cities function due to supermarkets. If supermarkets themselves function on a what's it called, a lifetime supply basis. If that supply stops, you have the collapse of the city, because supermarkets only have bring enough food to sell for 1, 2, or 3 days maximum. After that, it's gone. So if you have a situation where suddenly there is no supply of food, that's what you have, 3 days. Within 3 days, people will just rob, steal everything out of these supermarkets, and it's gone. And suddenly you are stuck with probably fires, chaos, gangs. You're stuck with traffic jams, roads are blocked, no vehicles will be functioning very well, or if there's roadblocks, physical exploding trucks, burned cars, and so forth. You are stuck in that city, and you need to have that ability, that mental mindset, ability to function under low fuel or low food state. Basically, as I'm functioning now, while you're fasting. So meaning if you need to stay somewhere, you've been hungry already for a day, and you just stay in the basement for another day, wait until night, move during night hungry, do a long march out of the city. Then once you got out of there, just like the people in the World War II, accomplish a task, meaning find food, and that may take also several days. This is crucial skill to know, fasting. And you can acquire it very easily if you practice regularly. Now, for all of you who are interested in fasting and health, I already made a video about that. Another link will appear, and you will definitely, you should definitely watch that video. I'm here to add a little bit aspects about fasting and health, that a ton of things will improve in your body. Your metabolism will improve, your blood will clean out, your joints will improve, because joints are filled with synovial fluid. Synovial fluid is a superfiltrated blood, and obviously once your blood becomes clean, your joints start becoming better and better. At least that's my theory, and many people agree with that. Again, your mind will think sharper. At first, as you fast, you will probably have that dizziness, disorientation, and even lightheadedness. But if you fast for a year or more, and I'll speak to that in that video where I dedicate fasting and health, you will see there that I will tell it there, but I'm telling you here, your mind will sharpen. Your strength will improve. Again, if you fast regularly, if you encounter a combat situation, if you have to engage an enemy, if you're in the military or in a survival situation, while you may be feeling weak during the move itself, once your blood starts pumping and you have fasted regularly, and adrenaline hits, you actually will feel much stronger than you would be in a full stomach or even just fed regularly. I experience it during training all the time. It's all in that video. You will learn. So you will be very focused, very aggressive, and at the same time you will have good, basically physical abilities that will suddenly come to life. It's a very interesting point to make. And so that's that. All of you who are bodybuilders, as I at one point weighed 120 kg, that's what I weigh, and I used to do bodybuilding fairly heavy. I lifted heavy weights and so forth. If you're concerned about losing weight, then talk to other professional bodybuilders. They all practice fasting, and even they starve themselves with water and food, because that gives them the definition they want. I don't fast obviously for these reasons. To me it's a challenge, it's great for your health, and it's something that prepares you for any survival situation. That's what I do it for. So we've covered quickly that subject. Now, lastly, about health we talked, about sport. Sport, again, you will feel tremendous power once you get used to fasting. One, fasting is just simply, it's like there. It's like a small craving, but it's not a massive craving where you need to do and you don't realize anything other than how can I find that burger chunk of meat, something sweet or salty. Once that is passed, and it's just like, okay, I need to eat, but I can totally ignore it. Once you reach that level, you will start seeing huge benefits in sport. You will, again, tremendous benefits, and it's all in that other video. So that's about it. I think I covered every subject. For those of you who are, again, who are actually job is to perform combat operations, fasting is crucial. Let's sum it up in a very clear way. As if you have an objective, you have a task, and for some reason you're never fasted and suddenly you're there without food, you absolutely will be feeling weak, disoriented, unpleasant. Your mind will not be on the task at hand. You will be just a much less effective operator as alone or as part of a team. And at the same time, if you fast regularly, your mind is sharp. Actually, it will be sharper than ever before. You absolutely are not worried about food, you're not thinking about food, and you're just thinking clearly at the task at hand. You have extra energy to perform that task. Your body is basically on that burning energy mode, and most likely you'll get the job done on time, right, and without being court-martialed for fainting on the job. I think that's an excellent proposition for every single person who is involved in such activities. That's it. All I can tell you now is go fast, go train, and combine training and fasting as you get better. Do everything gradually, step by step. Don't rush into it. Don't be in a hurry to break some sort of a record. I recommend fasting for 36 hours. First learn how to do that, then add training. Specific training that's best suited for your work, if you are a member of the military police forces. If you're just practicing for survival, learn about that. But again, if you're practicing for survival, you should practice fasting and long distance marches, practice longer than 36-hour fasting, and just prepare yourself mentally for this basically activity, as well as what may happen and how may you need to use it in various situations. It's a great skill to have all the way around. Thank you very much. Take care. Go fast.